What's up, guys? So today I want to talk about bad technique and why it is so hard to break bad technique, and it's almost better to, like, if let's say you started with a coach that didn't correct technique. A lot of us have, especially guys that have made it far, have had to switch coaches multiple times, and the technique in most gyms just isn't going to get you to a UFC level, honestly. And I don't mean that to disrespect coaches, but honestly, some of them should be disrespected with the technique they're teaching, right? But guys, it's so hard to break bad technique. You have no idea, especially from a striking standpoint. And I'll explain that too. But if you learn stuff the wrong way, that it's honestly probably, from my experience, because I was a prime example of this, it may take you double the time to fix it as it took you to develop it. So if you train at a gym that's mediocre for 3 years and you're developing all these bad habits, and then you leave and go to a better gym, it may take you twice as long to fix it. And I can't really put an exact time frame on it. It may take you the same amount of time, but it's definitely not going to be less. Even if you're super athletic, it's not going to be less. But if you're not super athletic, it's going to be even worse. But example is, like, let's say we're throwing a jab, right? And every time I jab, I drop this hand. And no one corrects this. This is what I went through. I went through the first three years of my career of striking, boxing. I trained at a boxing gym where a guy corrected no technique. And I don't really have a problem calling him out on that, because we no longer talk anyway. So it really doesn't matter. But he corrected no technique. He taught no defense at all, none at all. And I'm really passionate about this because this cost me later on in my career. Because when I was in the UFC, I was not in one of my first 10 fights, and I basically took little damage at all in those first 10 fights, and I had all these technical issues, but nobody ever made me pay for it until I ran into the top 10 guys. It was like a completely new organization. But technical problems like not holding the phone. Like I tell my students, hold the phone, keep the hand up. If you do this over and over and no one corrects it for years, how are you going to be able to fix this? Now, I have some drills for that particular one. I have a few drills to try to fix that problem for sure. But as a whole, it's going to take so much time, because even when you're practicing with perfect technique, shooting, this is just shadow boxing, of course, and we're talking about boxing, but this applies to the ground, this applies to wrestling, this applies to everything. But I say it applies more to striking because you get more reps in striking. And what I mean is, if you come into a gym and I have you shadow box, I say I want you to throw as many jabs as you can throw in a 3-minute round. Well, you can probably throw at least 100 jabs in a 3-minute round, maybe even double, maybe even a couple hundred jabs in a 3-minute round. But if I tell you to do as many shots as you can do in a 3-minute round, you're not getting anywhere near as many reps. So you always get way more reps in striking than you do grappling. That's why it takes longer to fix these techniques if you have butched up, messed up technique in striking, even more than grappling. But it applies the same if you're used to putting your hand in the wrong position when you're passing guard, or your grip isn't, you don't have a proper grip when you're grabbing a single leg takedown, and you've drilled this the wrong way for years. It can take a very long time to fix it, guys. And it's very frustrating if you started a gym that doesn't correct technique. And I would say this for this subject, I would say, is if your coach doesn't teach technique and good technique, and you have dreams of fighting in the UFC or at a high level, you need to leave. You need to go find someone who does. You don't owe someone loyalty if for anything, if you're a paying client, and you also don't owe them loyalty if they're teaching you BS McDojo stuff, because it may not be McDojo technique like, let's use jiu-jitsu, for example, right? I believe a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms in the United States are McDojos. And what I mean by McDojos, no, they're going to teach you stuff if you're going in there as a regular person to defend yourself. They're going to teach you good jiu-jitsu that will help. But this stuff at a high level will never work in an MMA fight. Like the way people do stuff in jiu-jitsu, going for leg locks constantly, all this low percentage moves that really in MMA will get you punched in the face, will get you knocked out. It's just very it's very risky trying some of this low percentage shit. So That's why I think jiu-jitsu gyms in the United States are pretty much McDojos as well a lot of the time, because they're not going to teach you shit for MMA. They're not McDojos for jiu-jitsu necessarily, but they're McDojos for MMA. If you don't have someone there in there that has ever fought at a decent level and knows what works and knows what is more risky. So if your coach isn't teaching good technique, you need to leave. It's that simple. You need to leave. I guarantee you, if you go ask, this is a good test for you guys. When you go to local fights or you go to a local gym, and we're talking about, someone who's trying to be a pro MMA fighter, going pro in MMA or amateur, just having fights, or especially going to the UFC. Go ask the older, more experienced fighters about this subject and see what they say. And I could end the video right here. If you go ask a lot of the older, it's not going to be all, but a lot of the older people are going to tell you that they regret staying with some of the coaches they stayed with in MMA because the technique wasn't being corrected. And oftentimes, and this is some guys that have made it far, some guys that even made it to the UFC. I mean, I'm one of them, but I know a lot more of them feel this way, and they made it to the UFC because they're special. I think I have a video about this that I posted a while back about it's always the fighter more than the coach. And if the coach, it's always the fighter more than the coach. You can't, like Brock Lesnar says in the Ultimate Fighter show, he said you can't turn chicken shit into chicken salad. So the fighter is going to be, it doesn't matter how good of a coach I am, and I know all this world-class technique if I don't have the right kid walking the door. So it's always the fighter more than the coach. But from the coach's side, if the coach isn't correcting technique, he's not a good coach. If they're giving you bad technique, you don't understand, and I say this with passion, I really do, because I've been through this. You don't understand that it might be impossible to help you solve these problems if you've been doing them wrong for too long. If you've been not holding your hands up, you've been fighting with your chin in the air, you're not moving your head off center line when you're striking, you're not using the proper grips on your takedowns, you're not driving through on your takedowns. If you have technical issues, you don't understand it's probably going to take you twice as long to fix the problem as it did to create it. It's just my advice. So my advice is, if you're somewhere and you're trying to be a fighter and they're not correcting technique the way you think they should, go seek other options. And you should feel perfectly good to do that. You should feel comfortable doing that, because you shouldn't be guilt tripped into being loyal to people if the technique is off. That's all I'm saying from that perspective. So make sure wherever you're training at teaches technique. And of course, this video is exclusively for fighters. If you're a regular student going and learning basic jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, pretty much any gym is going to help you be able to defend yourself. It is. But if you're trying to be a high-level MMA fighter, make sure this technique is like A1. Like, you need to, it's very important, guys. All right, that's my rant for the day. If you got any other subjects you'd like me to go over, just leave a comment below. And if you're new to martial arts, looking for a gym in your area, get my book, The Ultimate Guide to Choosing Your Martial Arts School and Instructor. The link is in the description below. Thank you, guys.